Moulscombe.
My Lords, the amendments in this group actually pose the important question of when and why the government should allow people to commit a crime and grant full legal immunity to that individual for that crime or those crimes. And I do think the government really needs to justify granting such a broad legal immunity to fight, well, I just feel here the government's calling it wrong, and I understand completely why they are doing this. There is a court case at the moment that's going to influence the outcome of this particular manoeuvre for them. And of course, there's the inquiry, which, when it comes to an end, hopefully will have some tough recommendations. But personally, I would rather that a granting of immunity was actually restricted to only serious crimes, as set out in the Noble Lords, Lord Hendy and Lord Paddock's amendment, because that would actually strike a more reasonable balance between the risks inherent in this criminal authorisation and the types of crimes that is being used to fight. And you've got to say, when you look at past mistakes that have been made, you have to say, what was the crime that the Lawrence family was suspected of committing or about to commit? What was the point of that? And can that happen again? Well, yes, of course it can happen again. And it can happen to innocent people. And that's something we need to be aware of when we pass this bill, as we will no doubt pass it. And then there's the issue of preventing disorder, which my Amendment 24 seeks to address. Now, this is something I care about a lot because I go on a lot of demonstrations, a lot of protests, a lot of campaigns, and of course, I'm out there on the streets, and you could argue I am creating disorder. And in fact, when I was arrested a few years ago, the only time I've ever been arrested, you could argue I was creating disorder. Now, what I was actually doing was trying to get between the police and the protesters, and I was saying things like, could we all calm down? That's what I was saying when the senior police officer there actually lost his temper and said, nick 'em all. And so I feel that preventing disorder is a quite honourable thing to do at times. And so we should really be very careful about what we think disorder is. And I think the government here, it's their duty to make sure that it's very, very clear. So personally for me, preventing disorder is far too broad a category for authorising criminal conduct. If the disorder is so bad as to be criminal, then it will be already captured in the prevention or detection of crime. But if the disorder is not criminal, then we're moving into the territory of peaceful protests and other legitimate gatherings. What's the justification for the state authorising people to commit criminal offences and giving full legal immunity in these cases? Based on 2019 figures, at the moment in the UK, there are over 500 people who can authorise this sort of immunity for criminal conduct. That is 312 chief superintendents and 212 chief officers of other ranks. So that's 500 people who can authorise a crime, giving immunity to a crime. And you have to ask yourself, how many mistakes are those people going to make? And they will. They're going to make mistakes. I see some considerable scope for error in that. And so I really don't think that the words preventing disorder should be in the bill. If the disorder is a crime, it's a crime, and people can be arrested for that. If it's not, why on earth will we let someone else commit a crime to stop something that isn't a crime? Perhaps the noble lady, the minister, can explain that to me.